Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for another episode of the Steelers Preview. And joining me as always, Bryan Davis. What's going on, Bryan?
I am ready to party like it's 1965.
The Lyndon B. Johnson era. It was great years then. Dave Schofield, what's going on?
I'm here. I made it. Jeff took one for the team and did an excellent job filling in on Stat Geek this morning. I was down for the count. There's only a handful of times in my life that I've been really sick, and last night into this morning was one of them. But I am here with you all tonight. Don't know how long my voice will hold up, so I might not be able to say very much, but that will probably make for a better show.
Well, we're glad that everyone's here. We're glad that everyone's joining us live in the live chat on YouTube, as well as on Facebook Live. So let's get this show on the road. I mean, because it's week 8. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles right before the bye week. And anyone that's heard anything about the Steelers knows that, well, you might as well just bury them now. Just bury them now. We'll get to all that for sure. I want to talk about some news first. And it was really news that occurred on Wednesday. I wanted to get Dave's opinion on it because I haven't spoken to him since the news happened. And this all stemmed from Mike Tomlin's press conference on Tuesday, comments made about Calvin Austin III. But there was some more to that. There's a lot of 21-day stuff going on. TJ Watt's 21 days started. He is back at practice. From what I saw on Twitter, he's going to speak to the media tomorrow, Friday at 1 p.m. So that'll be the first time we hear from TJ Watt since week 1. That'll be interesting. Also, Damontae KZ was medically cleared, meaning the doctor said your wrist is good to go. Whenever they're ready for you to join the team, you can join the team. He said, I just want to hit somebody. So that's exciting. Maybe that'll happen this week. I don't know. And Calvin Austin III, done. Done. So, Bryan, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Just all this 21-day stuff. What are your thoughts?
Well, hey, you know what? With KZ's been in practice. TJ Watt's back at practice, so they're getting ready to be out there. Now, the Calvin Austin III thing, you guys are going to batten down the hatches because you guys are going to yell at me for this one. And I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to say this. Hold off on the bust stuff with Calvin Austin III. I know you guys aren't going to do it. I'm just going to tell everybody else. Hold that off because you cannot call a man that has not played yet a bust. Just like Senquez Golson. Like Senquez.
Did you listen to my stat
but Calvin Austin III at least has a chance to play.
I understand.
Year after year. And so did Golston, who year after year didn't. That's what makes it a bust.
But I still think that we need to find a way to define bust. And the reason I say that is because if he got to play, would have he sucked? We don't know. We never know about whether Golson would have been good.
It's worse because he didn't play. That makes it worse.
He was an unfortunate pick. It was an unfortunate pick that didn't work out. Just like Ladarius Green, when he played, he was fantastic. But he's considered a free agent bust because it didn't work out because of health.
Still didn't work out either way.
Yeah. I'm just saying it doesn't work out. But, if healthy, what kind of player is this going to be? So lay off the bust stuff. I've been hearing bust already on Calvin Austin III. Stop it.
Well, I didn't say bust. If you listen to my Thursday pseudo stat geek podcast, I said this smells like Senquez Golson. Like it's the first thing that came to mind when I thought to myself, holy crap, this guy didn't even see a preseason field. And now he's done for the year.
I did not hear that yet. That's my old Jeff.
He only listens to Let's Ride. The fact that it was supposed to be a stat geek is why
he knew it was me, though. He knew it was me.
Yeah, because I helped set it up, David.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get Dave's thoughts because Dave needs a new decoder ring because he said Mike Tomlin, he had his decoder ring out and all this stuff. And I was like, you might want to upgrade that. But then I found out he was really sick and I felt bad for making the Dave.
Well, I'll be honest. What none of us saw was the fact of the report by Jerry Dulac that he re-injured his foot and is going to have surgery. Now, some people feel that that's just a ruse.
Shane White.
Yeah. Right. But I'm like, you don't have surgery as a ruse. No. So to me, that was a part of the formula that none of us saw coming. For them to just leave him on IR with him not being hurt wouldn't have made sense, because it would have been like, why did they even bother to open the window? If they didn't bring him back, now everything that Mike Tomlin says on Tuesday, with it being hindsight, makes so much more sense. He was hurt. Who knows? For all we know, he got hurt over a week ago and we just didn't know, because he doesn't end up on an injury report or anything like that. So in other words, the foot wasn't going to allow him to play this year. Maybe it wasn't a severe re-aggravation, or maybe it was, hey, he's getting back to practicing. Yeah, it's not going to be enough to really do what he needs to do. But on the bright side, until next August, Calvin Austin III has the chance to be the greatest wide receiver in Steelers history and the answer for everything going forward. And then of course, he could take the field and then be the worst pick ever. So, hope
that's not true, Dave, because Matt Canada doesn't know how to use him. So.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, you know how it is. The guy that's not playing is always the best there ever was. So it just kind of seems. I was looking forward to see him. He's one of those skedaddlers. You got to like those skedaddlers. Was this just Calvin Austin III, or was I allowed
any 20-day stuff? Anyone 21-day stuff?
Because here's the thing with KZ. To me, it sounded like in order for KZ to get final clearance, he had to start practicing before they would clear him. So he started practicing last week, and now they said, okay, you practiced, now you're clear. So that leaves it open for him to come back onto the roster. Whether it happens this week or after the bye, we'll see. Same with one Trent Jordan Watt. I expect TJ Watt to come back after the bye. Wouldn't it be amazing, though, if he says something tomorrow, or if 4:00 on Saturday, Steelers Nation goes nuts because TJ Watt's going to come back before the bye and is going to be the savior in Philadelphia? It's not. I'm giving that like a 1.5% chance, but man, wouldn't that be amazing?
I'm going to tease it now that if that happens, breaking news podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that. Okay, so you said 1% chance on Watt. What do you?
1.5.
Okay, that's fine. What would you put the percentage on KZ though? I think it would be higher.
I'm going 50-50.
Okay,
because
that's a good number.
Because if he's medically cleared and is good to go, bottom line is you have to think of who they're going to replace on the roster. What move are they going to make?
Put Levi Wallace on IR with a shoulder injury.
That might be the case. Or it could be someone like Josh Jackson gets cut and goes back to practice squad. Right. When TJ Watt comes back, we know it's going to be Ryan Anderson. Yeah. I mean, that's just the move that needs to be made. Unless somehow they all of a sudden like Ryan Anderson more than they like Jameer Jones. It's going to be one of those two. So, I mean, that's just is what it is.
It's six one way, half dozen the other.
Exactly.
So, or if somebody gets dealt.
Oh, here we go.
Who's that, Bryan? Who's getting dealt?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be Chase Claypool.
He just likes throwing it out there. Not that he really.
It could be the Mace, or there's that dark horse that could be Deontay Johnson. It's not going to happen, but it's a dark horse.
Yeah, it would be crazy if it did. Okay. All right, so enough 21-day stuff. The show that happened at noon on our audio-only side today, Thursday, was What Yin's Talking About. And I highly recommend anyone that's never checked it out to give it a listen, because there's a lot of humor involved. They redid Kyle redid the Growing
And you get it twice.
And he did it twice, yeah. He redid the Growing Pains theme song to Kenny Pickett. But the topic they discussed, and it was actually a really good debate between Kyle and Greg. They normally don't debate like this, but they did, and it was about the tag of growing pain. So I wanted to talk with you all about this. They're talking about not the show, not the sitcom that ran in the late 80s, early 90s, I guess, but they're talking about how everyone is excusing some of these mistakes being made by Kenny Pickett as quote unquote growing pains. And they're saying, well, I don't understand. Like, how long does that last? How long do you get growing pains? When do the growing pains go away? It's a valid question, and it's also in desperate need of someone explaining what they view as growing pains. So let's start there. Bryan, what do you define growing pains as it pertains to Kenny Pickett?
It's getting used to the speed of the game on a different level. And I want to go ahead and tell you to definitely listen to Kevin Smith's assertion on this on tomorrow's Here We Go, the Steelers show, because this has been brought up and it's very interesting. So I'll probably steal some of the stuff right here. But here's the thing with Kenny Pickett. In that game, I took some heat, mostly from Shannon White, when I said that, the end of that game was Kenny Pickett's fault because he did not close it out. Now, there were other factors, but I personally think that with 34 seconds left in the game, no timeouts, Kenny Pickett was thinking. He was thinking about that clock. He was thinking, all right, I have to throw a touchdown pass here. If I run, it could be bad if I don't get out of bounds, and that could be it. But he most likely would have had like maybe an 18-yard game, could have got down to the 6. He could have got the whole way in. You never know. But I thought the game got in his head at that point. Kenny Pickett's the kind of guy, though, that will turn around and say, I'm learning from this, and it won't happen again. He'll know exactly what to do when he sees it. I also want to go back to growing pains. Let's go back to 1998. 3-13, 28 interceptions, Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He had growing pains. He learned the game that first season.
That's a great point. Great point. Dave, you're defining growing pains how as it pertains to Kenny Pickett?
It takes some time to get there. The question is, how rough is the journey to really get up to a full understanding of the NFL? And it's not the same for everyone. There are some players that seem to get it and grasp it really quick, and others that don't. And I'm not saying that Pickett's going to be one or the other. I mean, he's 3 starts into it. Mm-hmm. So that's still really short. But that also shows you the value. Like, a lot of people want to talk about a Patrick Mahomes. Did he have a lot of growing pains? No, but he sat for an entire year. There was value to making that move. Peyton Manning did not sit for an entire year. And I know Jeff hates comparisons when comparing him to these other things, but he had to have those pains as he went. My goodness, how long were the growing pains with Terry Bradshaw?
Oh my gosh. He would not be in he would have not.
I mean,
they would have, if the internet was, there would be no Terry Bradshaw if the internet was back then.
Yeah. So it's not the same for everyone. And your hope, and the bottom line is, every week is a new opportunity to step on the field and have more playing time under your belt at this level, to realize things that you think might be open now are the best of the best in the world at this game, trying to make you think they're open so they can bait you into something that you shouldn't be doing. The Steelers defense does that to young quarterbacks all the time. So you kind of expect that's going to happen to a young quarterback. I don't mind the growing pains as long as he's not being handled with kid gloves. If he's going to have the growing pains, let him go out there and experience the pains and get through it, because it doesn't seem like Ben Roethlisberger had a lot of growing pains, but they really, really handcuffed him with what they asked him to do through his first season in the NFL. And I don't think that's the right play with Kenny Pickett, because he doesn't have the same kind of team around him that Ben did. So you kind of got to let him work these things out. But every game is an opportunity to shake that off and say, is this where he's going to start coming into his own?
To me, a growing pain, if I'm just defining it, is a rookie mistake.
Yeah.
It's the 2 fourth quarter interceptions by Kenny Pickett against Miami. The first one, he was baited into that. You saw it. You saw it. He was baited. They disguised their coverage. He didn't read underneath. That's a rookie mistake. The last one, miscommunication. He talked about it on Wednesday when he met with the media, saying that he expected Deontay Johnson to come back to the pylon because the defender's back was to Kenny Pickett, and it just didn't work out. I'm okay with kind of expunging those rookie mistakes. For me, you got to learn from them. And I don't want to see the same mistake again. That's the biggest issue here. Everyone wants to talk about labeling like the mistake itself. You're going to make mistakes. Ben Roethlisberger made mistakes as a rookie. If we're doing comparisons, like Ben made mistakes, all those quarterbacks, Peyton Manning that Bryan brought up, clearly made mistakes. But did they learn from those mistakes? So if Kenny Pickett goes out against Philly and has an interception that is almost the same exact one from Miami, it's like, well, dang it, like you didn't learn. Like, understand. And I guarantee you there was a part of him that, as Bryan said, he could have ran for it, that he was thinking, I need to do the right thing. And we probably got told, don't run with the ball. But we criticized him on our show, not that he listens, but I'm sure the coaching staff was saying he pulled the Mitch Trubisky run for a sack, where he ran out of bounds. They're like, hey, just throw it away. And he's thrown that away a couple times, but that last one in the corner of the end zone, it is what it is. So the next question is, how long do you give these growing pains? How long do you forgive these mistakes and chalk it up to, well, he's young, or, well, he's still a rookie? How long do you give them? This was the debate they had on What Yin's Talking About. Bryan, what do you say?
I think as long as you see marked improvement throughout the year, then it's fine. You don't want to call any season a wash. You don't want to say, all right, we're done. No, because they're never going to say that they're done. But as long as you see it getting better, the mistakes are going to be less and less. And like we have all agreed on this, you're not going to see Kenny Pickett. Let me rephrase that. I doubt that you'll see Kenny Pickett make the same mistakes twice, because he's not that kind of player. He's one of those, as Kevin Smith said it, he can't do the same things that he could do in college the same way, because the speed of the game is so much different. He's going to adjust, and there's going to be a mistake in week 17 too. Look at Ben Roethlisberger. Nobody talks about this, but he almost threw away the AFC divisional game against the Jets. If it wasn't for 2 missed kicks by Doug Bryan, they don't go to the AFC Championship game, and Ben has a terrible game. He had a bad game.
Do you want to talk about the AFC Championship game? The pick 6 to Rodney Harrison in the end zone, where he has Jeremy Tooman open, he throws it flat, and he picks it off and runs it back. I mean, come on. Do we forget that that's selective memory by some fans?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And Ben was very protected with that team too. Like Dave said, they had handcuffs on him, and you had a better roster.
How many times did Ben Roethlisberger in his rookie season, I don't have this stat in front of me, how many times did Ben Roethlisberger his rookie season have to throw the ball more than 25 times?
Hold on, I'll get it in just a minute.
Because Kenny Pickett in 3 starts has already thrown it over 40 twice. Okay. Last week, I think he was in 43, 44, and he threw it 50 sometimes against Buffalo. So I don't think Ben had that stat line where it was like,
okay, you're saying his rookie year?
Yeah, 2004.
Okay. The number of times where, just jumped on me. The number of attempts that he threw. Ben Roethlisberger in his rookie season did not throw 30 attempts until that game against the Jets.
Think about what that is. Think about what that's saying. Like when you talk about the team.
I'm not talking completions. I'm talking attempts.
No, I know. I'm talking because that's what I was mentioning with Kenny Pickett. He threw the ball 50 plus times against Buffalo. He threw it 40 plus times against Miami. The only reason he didn't throw it for that many times against Tampa is that he only played it 2.5 quarters roughly. Mm-hmm. So if you want to compare Roethlisberger to Pickett, this is why I say I hate the comparison. You can't compare those two teams. They're just so starkly different, from the running game to the defense to the coordinator, everything. That's why I hate it.
You didn't have to rely on Roethlisberger play in and play out.
No.
That's it.
He was basically, Bill Cowher gave him the Duck Hodges treatment. Just don't kill us, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not forgetting that. I don't think of 2004. Absolutely. I was definitely old enough to remember. Yeah. So, all right. So, Dave, I'll give you a chance to answer the question.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long do you give it? It's all about, I mean, if you're going to have growing pains, if you're going to make rookie mistakes, it's all about growing every week. Yeah. It's when it doesn't improve even just a little bit, week after week after week. 3 games, 3 starts, not enough. Okay. By the end of the season, you want to see Kenny Pickett at the end of this season be in a much different place than where Kenny Pickett is going into the bye.
It's a great point. I agree 100%. Now, we brought up coordinators. Of course, we're going to bring up coordinators. Everyone hates Matt Canada, seemingly. They all want him fired. And I thought I was driving home and I was listening to what Ian's talking about, and they were sending out tweets about Canada and how people want him gone. And I kept on thinking about something that Todd Haley actually said. He was on a podcast, I think, and he made a comment basically saying in Pittsburgh, you could set all these offensive records and they'll still hate you as an offensive coordinator. And he was referring to his time with the Killer Bees when they did set all sorts of records and people still hated Todd Haley. And so that's why I started to think, man, Steeler fans really do hate offensive coordinators. It's never good enough. It's never good enough. So I thought, who was the last offensive coordinator that Steeler fans, as a general consensus, not you, me, Dave, individually, whatever, as a general consensus, the last coordinator that fans said, I like that guy. Love the way he calls a game. Wouldn't do it any different. Bryan, can you think of someone?
You know what? Mike Mularkey, maybe. I mean, I could actually say Bruce Arians, but
really, because he almost got Ben killed. Like
that was the thing with Arians.
times.
Arians, it wasn't about the play calling. It was, can you please not get Ben Roethlisberger killed?
But a lot of fans weren't looking at that. They just saw the fact that he was scoring. But I would probably think Mularkey back in the 90s.
Well, because there wasn't social media, I wasn't as
early.
I wasn't as tuned in with fans.
That's
but
true.
what about Wisenhunt?
Yeah, Wisenhunt.
You know, I mean, so much so they
Chan Gailey back in the 90s.
They loved Chan, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They even loved Ron Earhart.
But I mean, if there was Twitter in 1987, who knows how we would view the Steelers?
How about Ray Sherman, who got fired? He got his offensive play calling duties stripped before the last game of the season, and Bill Cowher called the plays. It's in his book. I just read it. But could you imagine the Twitter storm of the last game of the season? You wait until week 16 or 17, whatever it was back then. Yeah.
Ray Sherman killed Cordell Stewart's career because he wanted to make Cordell Stewart a pocket passer.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you can't do that. He really hurt his career. It's
like saying I want to make Willie Parker a power running back.
Absolutely.
Or Najee Harris, an outside zone guy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's run sweeps.
I would probably think the three least favorite coordinators. Probably, and I'm not going to include Canada in this, but he's definitely in it. But we're talking about other coordinators.
So you're saying three former coordinators, yeah.
Three former coordinators that were probably considered the worst, and Haley's not one of them because Kevin Gilbride was dreadful. Was Sherman was awful, and then Randy Land. We got to say Randy.
He was so far in over his head, it wasn't funny.
See, I think people loved the results of Haley. They hated Haley. He was brash, tequila cowboy. He's out on the South Side getting blackout drunk and getting into fights and stuff. So,
and it was pick one, pick Ben or pick Haley, pick a side.
Right, exactly. But it's man, that's just one thing I wanted to bring up is that Steeler fans in general, and I'm sure it's across the board on all 32 NFL teams, that's a tough job. Not only is it a difficult job calling plays in a game, it's also a difficult job because nothing you do is good enough, seemingly ever. And so that's something to keep in mind. All right, let's talk about the game coming up. We're going to get to the injury report here in a second. But guys, what is it going to take? I'm not doing predictions. What's it going to take for the Steelers to break their curse in Philadelphia? Bryan mentioned it at the opening of the show. It's been since 1965 that the Steelers have won in Philadelphia. It was a great trivia question on the Know Your Enemy podcast last night with Shannon and Jeffrey Benedict. He said, who was the running back of the Steelers the last time they won in Philly? And I knew it. I'm actually in the gym. I'm like, I know it. If I was in the live chat, I would have gotten it right away. You guys, Dave, do you know? Bryan's nodding his head. I'm going to see if Dave knows first.
In 1965?
I could give you a hint and you
hold
get
on
it in 2 seconds.
I'm going to go Buzz Nutter.
He was a linebacker, by the way.
That's an A for a guess, though. That's a
Frank Webb.
Yeah. Oh, yes, his dad. His dad actually named his.
Forgot about Frank Webb. I would say Dick Hoke.
That is correct.
That makes sense.
Dick Hoke. Dick Hoke, who then became the coach, he left the Steelers for 1 year, coached my high school for 1 year, not when I was there, obviously, and then said, I can't do this with these high school kids, and went back to Pittsburgh and coached with the Steelers. So Dick Hoke, yeah, he was the running back for the Steelers the last time that they won in Philadelphia. So what's it going to take? Like, what would it take, in your opinion, for this team to somehow go into Philadelphia, not just end the streak, but shock the world and give the Eagles their first loss? Brian, give me something. Give me something tangible.
Food poisoning?
Oh, come
No.
on.
Come on. I had
Pulling the fire alarm at 3 a.m.
That's
So give me something. Come on.
I'm going to give you
Okay,
something.
good.
I think it's going to come down to making sure that Jalen Hurts does not hurt so good. When I say that, don't let him hurt you running the football. Kind of, spy him a little bit, make sure, that's a three-headed rushing monster, but I don't think it's absolutely horrible. On the defensive side of on the offensive side of the ball, though, where they are suspect the most is in the middle of the field, and it all comes down to feed Freiermuth. And I'm talking, he caught almost everything that went his way last week. I think it was 7-8 balls. Double it. Kill him with Freiermuth.
All right. That's something. I like it. It's something. Dave, give me something that would have to happen for the Steelers to pull off the upset win.
Okay, I'll give you two. One is they have to do something that hasn't happened with the Philadelphia Eagles all year, and that is the Steelers would have to win the turnover battle. Mm-hmm. The Eagles have won the turnover battle in every game all year. They only have 2 turnovers on the year. They've had 14 takeaways. Even in the games that they've had turnovers, they still ended up at least +2 in those games. So if the Steelers could somehow turn that back on them, then I think that would give them a good chance to win. Or if, let's say, both teams play a clean game, it would literally have to take the defense carrying the day, like they try to do against Miami after the opening quarter. I don't know if you guys listened to the Scobro show where we kind of went off on stuff a little bit and how frustrated I was that it was laid on the defense that they didn't come up with the interceptions. I'm like, but they shut them out the second half. They gave the offense an opportunity to take the lead every possession in the second half, and the offense couldn't do it. How much more do you want from them? So the thing is, so even by Mike Tomlin's own words, it's not just good enough for the defense to totally shut down the Eagles. They're going to have to shut them down and create turnovers, create takeaways in order for them to win.
I'm going to give you 3. Okay. And this is, I kind of expand on this in my Let's Ride on Friday, but the Steelers offense cannot turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. And that's good. That bleeds into special teams as well. You cannot give them an extra possession. Not one. The Gav has to be clean. You need a special teams splash play. And anymore, I keep on thinking about the Steven Sims 98-yard touch. Let me rephrase it. 98-yard return that did not turn into a touchdown that equated in 3 points. And that makes me very weary. That makes me want to say you need a special teams touchdown, like an actual touchdown, not a setting them up in the red zone, because we know that does not equate necessarily to points. And you're going to need defensive takeaways, like Dave mentioned. That's to me, that's the only way the Steelers can find a way to win this game. But what we're going to do when we come back from a word from our sponsors is we're going to talk about the injury report. We're going to talk about the over-under game, the spread predictions, and trivia. We'll be right back after this. And we're back. Thank you for sticking around. And we are going to talk about the injury report. This is something that the Philadelphia injury report really irked me, at least on Wednesday. I'll get to that. But Dave, why don't you go ahead and read us the injury report leading into Friday?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even today's, Thursdays, yeah. For them, my goodness, you're coming off of your bye week. You need to give players 2 days off of rest.
It doesn't add
after
up.
bye, yeah, or they're really are overlooking. I don't know. But we'll see. Let's look at the Steelers. All right. So most of it was good news, with maybe one exception. There was a new player added today. Cam Hayward, not injury-related, resting player, didn't practice. Not surprised. Okay, Levi Wallace did not practice again with his shoulder. The way Coach Tomlin talked on Tuesday that he would not be, he did everything short of saying he's not playing this week. So that wasn't a surprise. The other did not practice, which is a little bit concerning to me, is with the knee. Once again, Larry Ogunjobi didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but he's done this before where he didn't practice for 2 days, was full on Friday, and then had no injury status. So that's one that really is going to matter tomorrow. Now the good news. Pat Freiermuth, limited Wednesday with an ankle, full on Thursday. Steven Sims, hamstring, limited Wednesday, full Thursday. Montravius Adams with a hamstring, didn't practice Wednesday, full on Thursday. Akello Witherspoon, full both days. And then Josh Jackson with a groin, didn't practice Wednesday, limited Thursday.
Dave, you and I see things very similar when it comes to this type of stuff. I just didn't understand why in the world they would need to give all these players off. My boss at work is a huge Eagles fan, and I said, "What in the heck are you all doing?" I said, they just had a week off. Why are they getting all this time off? Are they overlooking the Steelers? And then I thought to myself, well, Buffalo did that too, and they worked out fine for them. They rested all their guys because they were thinking about Kansas City the week after. Bryan, what are your thoughts on the injury report?
Ogunjobi, I realize what Dave's saying. I hope he's right with that. That scares me the most because there's a possibility that Lane Johnson, if he does not come back, that could be pretty dangerous for Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts if you've got Ogunjobi there and the possibility of rushing that tackle spot. So if Lane Johnson's is a fantastic player, actually he might be on the right side, but their left tackle may be out. There's a possibility as well. So you really need Ogunjobi on the line.
Yeah, for the Steelers, I mean, Ogunjobi, like you said, is the one that you have to kind of you're keeping an eye out. You're seeing, okay, does he practice on Friday and then able to make his way back? We'll see. It's definitely you need all hands on deck for a game like this. There's no doubt about that. And so, really weird Philadelphia stuff. I'm not surprised though. Okay, let's get to the over/under game. What's up, Dave?
What's crazy is that almost all the guys, not injury related, limited.
Right, so it's like they went through individual workouts and then didn't do the team drills or vice
or
versa.
The other, yeah. I don't know.
Again, really odd.
If they come out on fire, then you got to say, well, they knew what they were doing.
Or maybe they'll come out flat. Maybe we'll be
that
lucky
would be
there.
even better.
All right, let's play the over/under game. You all ready? Yes, good. Okay.
We nodded. We didn't say
we
anything.
know. Yeah, for those in audio, they said yes. All right, so let's do Kenny Pickett passing yards. Kenny Pickett passing yards. I've got the number set at 274.5. Now, this depends on how you view this game going. This might be easy for some. This might be more challenging. Bryan, you think over or under?
I'm going to say under.
Okay. Dave?
That seems like a lot.
Depends on how you see the game go.
Yeah, I know. Because I don't want him to throw it 50 times. So I'm hoping I'm going to go under because that's what I want it to be.
I agree with you as well. That is the under that I'm going with. But I think he's going to throw for over 250. I do think he's going to go for over 250. He's going to have to. Let's go to Pittsburgh Steelers turnovers. I just said that they have to keep it clean, in my opinion. I have it at 1.5. Bryan, what do you think?
Yeah, they got to keep it under. I'm just going to say under.
Dave?
They really, really, really need to keep it under to have a chance. I'm going over.
I'm going under. I just think that this is they got to keep it clean at one point. So I'm gonna go under.
I mean, honestly, this has been Philadelphia's calling card all season. Yeah. So that's why. Bottom line is, if they keep it under, they're in really good shape. They are.
Yeah,
but it's also the growing pains.
Yeah. It was 2 weeks ago. I looked up the differential for the Steelers, and I was like, who's in the lead? Plus 12. Like, plus 12. How the heck do you get plus 12? That's incredible. So, yeah, you're right. They do have to do that. All right. Here's an interesting one. Haven't done this one yet this year. Kenny Pickett rushing yards. Rushing yards for KP8. Ooh. Haven't done this one yet. I have the line set at 22.5. 22.5. Bryan.
I'm going over.
Ooh, okay. Dave?
I was going to go out on a limb and go over as well, and I'll stick with it.
Gosh, I set these lines and I have confusing myself. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go 25. I think it's gonna be right around 25. That's why I went with 22.5. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe it goes
Honestly,
I'm
banking on learning from the mistake that he should have ran it. So therefore, he might run a couple more times this game than he did in the past.
I got you. Okay. Let's go to one George Pickens receiving yards, 64.5. Bryan, over under.
I'm going under.
Dave?
Let's. This team likes to move the ball, but just not close enough to score. So I still think Pickens is their guy. So let's go over.
I'm going under, barely, around 60. He's getting wide receiver 1 treatment, and I don't think he's quite ready to beat that all the time. I think that when that happens, you should expect more from Claypool and Johnson and Pat Freiermuth, as Bryan mentioned earlier.
That's who they should be looking at.
Yes, exactly. Let's go to Deontay Johnson targets. Targets for Deontay Johnson. The line set at 10.5. Bryan, over under.
I'm going under.
Dave?
Sorry, just once again, the Ravens pass up on a field goal and try to go for it on 4th down and don't get it. Sorry, what was the question?
Deontay Johnson targets. The line is set at 10.5.
10.5. I'm going to go under, but barely.
I'm going to go over. I think it's going to be 11. It's going to be 11, I think. I listened to Kenny Pickett's presser. He's waxing poetic about Deontay Johnson. That tells me he might be putting the ball in his hands more this week than normal. And last one.
Or is he trying to cover the fact that the last 2 times he targeted him? Well, I don't know if it's the last 2 because I'm missing some other ones in there, but 2 of the last times he targeted, he was intercepted.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Okay, last one is Pittsburgh Steelers first half points against Philadelphia. The line is 10.5. Bryan, over under.
Under.
Oh my gosh. Dave?
Oh, the hook makes that easy to go under.
Really? I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over with 13.
But they're going to score more than 10 points. Okay. Gotcha.
Hey, I'm an optimist. Okay. So there you have the over under. You got 6 there, right, Bryan? I didn't miss one.
I have 6.
All right, good. Okay. Spread. It's changed a little bit since the opening line. Dave, what are you getting now on DraftKings Sportsbook?
All right. I'm going to hit refresh because I've had it up for a couple hours from where I did an article. It is still the same that when I looked at it earlier. The Eagles are favored by 10.5 with the over under being 43.
Okay. Prediction time. Bryan, what do you have in terms of score? How do you see it shaking out?
Really, this is a tough one for me, but I'm getting to the point where that streak from 1965's got to end sometime. You know what else has to end is a winning streak and starting the season. I just don't feel like Philadelphia is the team that is going to go 17-0. I don't think they're a 17-0 team, which I think a lot of people in Philly are starting to think that. But then again, there's a lot of pessimism. Somebody's got to bring them down. Should it be the Steelers? Probably not. But I'm going to say it is. So I'm going to go the Pittsburgh Steelers 24, Philadelphia Eagles 23.
Ooh, okay. Upset special. I love it. Dave, what about you?
Well, Bryan brings up a good point. Like when the Pittsburgh Steelers were on their winning streak to start the season 2 years ago, did you really think that it was going to be Washington that was going to end it? No. So it's probably going to be someone that you don't expect. But the Eagles are coming off a bye, which I know I didn't get to look this up for StatGeek because I was so under the weather. How do they normally do coming out of the bye week? All I know was that they have a chance to get healthy. Another thing is sometimes when a team's on a roll, a bye week can actually slow them down. All that sounds good, great, and wonderful. But I said it on the Scobro Show Tuesday. You'd have to be crazy to pick the Steelers to win this game. But it's not that they can't win this game. They can win this game, but it would really take something special. I'm going to go in typical fashion. I am going for the Steelers to cover, but not win. I'm going Philadelphia 23, Pittsburgh 13, because I still don't have confidence in the offense putting up points.
So I was curious. I looked at the Eagles' schedule, Dave, as you were talking. Maybe the resting situation makes little sense. They play on Thursday night after this game.
Oh, really?
They go on the road to the Texans on Thursday night. I'm wondering if Sirianni is thinking, let's not beat these guys up a ton now, even though we're coming off the bye week, because they have a short turnaround before they play the Houston Texans in, that's Thursday, November 3rd. That'll be week 9. So, you said you would have to be crazy to pick the Steelers.
Yeah.
So you can just label me.
No, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's not a logical pick. It's a heart pick. And honestly, I'm going to be sitting in this exact same spot watching this game on Sunday because I actually get the game. Yes. Oh, almost everyone gets this game. It's Romo and Nance and everything. Gosh. Yeah. Oh. So the fact that the Ravens are playing now is part of the reason that I'm going to get this game. And I'm going to sit here believing to the end that they can. I sat here in the Dolphins game believing that they could, but I just wasn't sure if I was going to see it. I love that they're putting themselves in the situation where they can. I just have to see when it's going to start all clicking to where they actually do. That's what I meant by that. If you look at the numbers and everything else, Steelers haven't won there since 65, coming off the bye, blah, blah, blah. All the turnover, Kenny Pickett throwing a lot of interceptions. It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So go ahead, give us your pick. Tell us how much the Steelers are going to win by, Jeff.
DraftKings money line is plus 380, I think.
I would take that in a heartbeat.
Plus 380. You want to make some money. Call the upset. You might make some money. But no, for me, of course, I'm picking the Steelers to win. And I've been called way worse than crazy, Dave. Don't worry. I think that the Steelers have a last-second touchdown to win 27-26. Steelers win 27-26.
So they're put in the same situation and come through this time.
But this time they actually come through.
Honestly, I think if they can get to that point, that they could. They've got to get if they get to that point.
I mean, they could also get their doors blown off like they did in week 5, and I wouldn't be shocked either. So it's one of those things. It's like I said when I did the stacky thing, but on paper, this is so one-sided. It is absurd.
It really is.
And I think it's more one-sided than it was before Buffalo.
Yeah.
Now, that might have changed since, but my gosh, you look into the stats.
Well,
it's unbelievable.
But Buffalo's rankings were really, really high. They were like in top 3 of almost everything. But the Steelers weren't as bad until they played Buffalo.
Yes.
And then theirs dropped even more.
Okay, we have trivia from both. Bryan, go for it.
All right, this one is a fun one. We're going to talk about wide receivers. And I'm actually going to talk about 2 of them. The first one is a Pennsylvania guy through and through when you talk about his entire career. This wide receiver played at North Allegheny High School in Wexford. He then went on to Penn State. He ended up with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a 5th-round draft pick, and in his second season ended up with the Philadelphia Eagles for the rest of his career. He only played 3 seasons in the NFL, and he is the second to last player to ever catch a touchdown pass from Terry Bradshaw. What was his name?
I don't know.
I'm
horrible with those older names, especially a guy that only played 3 years in the NFL. I have no clue.
And he's mostly known for being a legend at Penn State because he caught the winning pass from Todd Blackledge in the Sugar Bowl, a diving catch with only a couple minutes left to beat Herschel Walker and Georgia 27-23.
I can't remember the name.
That's a problem.
That does create a problem. I'm going to give you the best I can do.
Go ahead.
His last name started with a G.
He is not just, I was going to say this before you said that, he's not just an OG, he's an O-double-G, Greg Garrity.
Oh, yep. Okay. I remembered. Yeah, I could remember that somewhat, but
I've never heard that name in my entire life.
No, yeah, because I do from the whole. When you look at, honestly, what it came from, as I've studied so many draft picks in the off season, it just seems like it's not fair.
The Penn State thing is one of the biggest.
Because I did look up, players drafted from Penn State and Pitt and WVU this year, so that was why.
And he was the one on the Sports Illustrated cover for their first championship. So in 1983. Very interesting. This one's really quick. This gentleman, another receiver, was a 1,008-yard receiver for the Steelers. And he ended up playing 2 years after leaving the Steelers in the 90s with the Philadelphia Eagles. He left the Steelers to go to the Eagles.
Oh, so he went straight from Steelers to Eagles.
Yes.
Because because there's a number of wide receivers that were with the Steelers and ended up with the Eagles. Like Mike Wallace is one, right?
Marcus Wheaton.
Who was Charles Johnson? Did Charles Johnson end up with the Eagles eventually?
Charles Johnson is the answer, Dave.
Oh, I didn't know he went straight to the Eagles.
Yes, okay.
Mike Wallace didn't play for the Eagles. Did he?
Yes, he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know he went to Miami. Then he went to Baltimore
and Minnesota.
I think he went to the Eagles between Miami and Baltimore.
He played in that really ugly game where they just destroyed. I think it was 2016 in week 3 when they destroyed him. I think he was in that game. If I'm not mistaken, Wallace.
I don't remember the Minnesota tenure either with Mike Wallace.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Mike Wallace went there right after he was in Miami because he did not last long in Miami.
Yeah.
In Miami?
He didn't last long there, no.
He spent a couple seasons down there.
Not a long time, but I'm looking at a picture of him right now in a Vikings uniform.
I believe you. I just don't remember it.
I would actually I'm
one trick pony.
Yeah.
One trick to a pony, many teams.
For sure. Dave, your trivia time. Go for it.
All right, my trivia time. It's coming into its point spreads. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, if this line holds, which it may or may not, if something crazy happens where TJ Watt comes back to play, I don't think the line will hold, in my opinion. But the Steelers are in line for this to be the second game, according to Pro Football Reference, this season, that at kickoff they were double-digit underdogs. They ended up not being double-digit underdogs to the Buccaneers. That line actually ended up at 9.5 right before kickoff. So this was almost the third time. But if it ends up being the second time, because they were 14-point underdogs in Buffalo in Week 5, this will now, then it would be twice in a season that the Steelers were double-digit underdogs. When was the last season where the Steelers had 2 games where they were double-digit underdogs?
I was going to guess 2003.
I'm going to go 1992.
All right. Well, 2003, they weren't even double-digit underdogs one time.
Really? At 6-10, they were never double-digit underdogs. Okay.
No, you got to remember, most of the time when you get double-digit underdogs is when you're playing a really mismatched team on the road. So a lot of that depends on the matchup. Okay. And Bryan said 2000, or you said 92. 92, they were the 12.5-point underdogs in their opening game, which they won, and they were not double-digit underdogs the rest of the season.
So then I'd go back to 88 then.
Well, 88, they were double-digit underdogs only once.
I got it.
Go ahead.
89 then, because remember they started out 51-0 and 41-10.
Yep, the answer is 1989. After losing 51-0 the first week of the season, they were 10.
Real quick, can I actually guess the 2 games that they were underdogs?
Sure.
I'm going to say week 2 against Cincinnati and week 3 against Minnesota.
It was actually week 2 against Cincinnati and week 6 against Cleveland again.
Okay.
Because they had already got spanked by them once when they actually won that game 17-7.
Okay.
It's pretty darn
That
good,
was a
though,
good
Brian.
guess.
Pretty darn good
Pretty
there,
good guess.
nonetheless. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good trivia. Good stuff. Okay. Let's go with final thoughts here. Brian, go for it.
You could call this season anything that you want. You could call any of these players, not great enough for prime time, not ready for it. But I love how they're progressing. I love how everything is going. I hate to quote this guy because I'm mad at him right now. Deontay Johnson, I'm very mad at. I haven't fired him. I'm just mad at the guy. Just because of his attitude, because of the drops. I don't feel that he gets it sometimes. But when he says, hey, you're still going to be watching, even though that's egregious to actually say, yeah, we're still going to be watching. And you know why we're going to be watching? Because we love this team. You know why we're so pissed off that they play so poorly and why we abhor Matt Canada so much as a fan base? Because we know that they're better than this. And we haven't experienced this since that 6-10 in 2003. And it stinks. And we hate it. But that 2003, that built the foundation for 2 Super Bowl teams. Actually, 3 Super Bowl teams and 2 Super Bowl winning teams. It built the foundation for it. Really did. Every once in a while, that 6-10 year, that rough year, kind of does it, and it kind of helps you out. And I know you don't tank for picks, and I'm going to tell you, you don't. But one thing, when you have one of those, and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're one of the few teams that will have one of those and just continue to suck. They're not going to put a bunch of those together in a row. You don't see a lot of losing. I think the last time you had a couple losing seasons in a row were probably between 85 and 88. That's probably it. I might be wrong. StatGeek might be able to help me with that. But all I'm saying is back in 91, 92, Steelers were pretty good. 94 and on, they haven't had a losing season. That 93 was an aberration, but it set everything up. Let this be your aberration.
All right. Good stuff. Dave, final thoughts.
You were saying that the question of when the last time was that the Steelers had back-to-back losing seasons.
Yes.
That would have been a great trivia. And the last time they did, the answer to that would be 98-99 when they went.
I didn't realize 99 was a losing season.
They were 6. 99 that was worse. They were 6-10. 98 they were 7-9. But I mean, you look back, my goodness, back-to-back ones. I mean, you gotta go back to Chuck Noll's teams in the 80s in order to get there. So you've got a really good point there, Brian. And the thing is, of course, we're going to keep watching. Do you know why we're going to keep watching? Because this team is not playing very well right now. The defense in the last 3 quarters of the game this past week looked like the defense that it could be. And it's the best they've looked without TJ Watt. It really is. If you want to know the difference with this team and TJ Watt, listen to Jeff StatGeek. I love saying Jeff StatGeek. That's just so great to say. Of laying out some of those things. The crazy difference in the numbers with this season alone in the game TJ Watt played versus without him. But to me, on Sunday night, that's where you finally saw the defense being the defense that you thought they could be, other than the fact they weren't sacking the quarterback. But there was also another Zebra Technology stat thrown in there that Tua was throwing the ball faster than like anybody had all season, something crazy like that. So they were protecting him because they didn't want him taking another hit. And Coach Tomlin, when he acknowledged that made a lot of sense. So to see that defense to get to there, you're like, this is where I thought this team could get to. Now they got to go out and repeat that this week. But when is the offense going to get where you think that they could get to? They're younger. They're less experienced. They have a rookie quarterback, but we're going to keep watching because we want to see them make that step. This team, I'd hate to say it, this team could be 2-12, and all of a sudden something clicks on and they start doing some great stuff to then get excited moving forward. I'm not saying I think they're going to go to 2-12. Gee, I hope not. Man, this is going to make for some brutal times around at BTSC. But even at if they don't win this week, if they don't win, as those things happen, this season is just so unlike we've ever had as Steelers fans in such a long time. And you're going to keep tuning in because you want to see, is Kenny Pickett going to all of a sudden turn into something? Is the offense going to actually click and turn into something? Is the offensive coordinator going to finally get out of his own way and not go full house on everybody? So what's the opening line to that song? The theme song?
Full House?
Yeah. Whatever happened to predictability? Yeah, Matt Canada found it. Okay. That's what happened to predictability. It ended up with the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. So
how long have you had that in your back pocket?
I want
to know. How long have you had that in your back pocket?
A couple of days through the sickness. Yeah. So, I mean, and do we have hope that, all of a sudden Matt Canada is going to get creative? Do we have hope that Kenny Pickett's going to, throw all these passes perfect and not make a rookie mistake? Do we have hope that the running game is just going to take off? It's a big ask, but there's still a chance that could happen. And what better time to happen in Philadelphia, where you haven't won since 1965 against an undefeated team and shock the world. So even though I'm not picking the Steelers to win because it just doesn't make sense to, I'd give me that money line bet because I still think there's a chance they can win this game.
I can't get the Full House song out of my head now, so that's we're gonna call it a show.
Growing pains is stuck in mine.
Yeah, that's what was in my head too.
All right, good show, gentlemen. We will be back next week, even though there's no game to preview. We'll be talking about the Steelers at the bye week, getting you geared up for any AFC North action that weekend and things like that. So we'll be back next week for another Steelers preview. In the meantime, Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey,
see you next week.
Everybody else gets a little tight.